Hi, everyone. My name is Vattan. And before we start, so the talk is not about DAOs, right? But do not panic. The talk is about internet native organization, right? This is something we are trying to redefine the DAO. And why is that? Because, like he said, DAO, decentralized autonomous organization. But there's no living DAO that we are aware of, which is fully decentralized, autonomous. I mean, most of them work under organization, so yes, you can give it to them. So this is why we are working to create some sort of system and standard, and also this mechanism so people can understand what makes them a DAO or an internet native organization. This is the work we are conducting. So before we start, so this is going to be our topic today, internet native organization. And before we start, let me introduce myself. So I'm Vattan, made in India, based in Estonia. And it's been 5 years for me being in Estonia. And internet native organization, we are also conducting as a nonprofit in Estonia. We started last year. We did also register first legal DAO. Our nonprofit is registered as a DAO in Estonia. So that was one of the biggest achievements for us. And I founded Founderly. Founderly is a growth platform for early stage founders. Our network size is reaching already in thousands of people. We are partnered with a lot of companies. We do a lot of events. And we do key focus on founders' mental health. And the reason is very simple, why we do keep focus on mental health, because founders have higher chance of getting burnout. And at the same time, I personally believe building a startup is about going further and longer, and you have to keep it up. And for that, you need resilient mindset. So that's the reason why we started Founderly, and we do a lot of things in there. And personally, I've been an entrepreneur since I was 16 years old. I raised my first investment at the age of 17, so I've been doing it for a while. So you can ask me also any question around entrepreneurship later. So let's start from what collaboration means, right? Because the topic that we're going to discuss today is all about collaborating, how to collaborate, how to come together when you don't know each other, right? Because there are so many times you want to collaborate with people who are not, let's say, from Finland, right? But they have something that they can offer to you that you don't have. But how will you collaborate with them? So that's the definition of collaboration, if you don't know already. So what means collaboration in here? When two or more people come together, it could be also organizations come together, that's where we collaborate, right? And there are some great pictures in here. You can get pretty big idea what collaboration means in here. And this next big question in here comes, after you collaborate with anyone, how to coordinate? And at the same time, I'm also defining how you work in startups, and then we will get into DAO. So when you team up with some like-minded people, the next big question arises, how to coordinate? And coordination means in here, how will you communicate to them? How will you raise capital for your project, right? And it requires a lot of communication. Like, for example, you might have to talk to investors. You might need to talk to your team each and every day. Then you might need to use a lot of project management tools, right? This is where coordination becomes tricky. And it's not easy. It's very, very hard. Coordination is the hardest thing after you team up with someone. Because if you don't do it right, it's not going to work, right? The idea will fall. And this is what we see when a lot of team comes out of hackathons. You know, you see great coordination in hackathons. People team up. They build on something like, let's say, for 48 hours. But what happens after that? What happens on Monday, right? They do not continue because there is no coordination in there. So coordination is very, very important. And again, definition, I love definitions. So the process of organizing people or groups so that they work together. So let's get to it. What is internet native organization? So like we define it, we think of DAO or INO has to have three components. The first component is code-driven, which means the most of the operations of this organization should stay on chain, which means like it has to be code driven. Like, so you program something, let's say, if I work 3 hours every day, I will be paid automatically to my bank account later by today. I don't need to ask for anyone any permissions, right? I don't need to call anyone. Hey, what happened to my invoice? There was a deadline on that, right? This is another big problem when you work under the invoices. People delay payments most of the time, and not because they want to. Sometimes they are super busy and they don't have time for it. And we can fix that with the help of automation. So that's one biggest component. Coordination can be automated. So that's where code-driven comes in. The second thing, community-oriented, which basically means making your community work for you. There are great books on this subject, network effects. Network effects works really cool when you talk about any marketplace, right? It's also called cold start problem, how to get from 0 to 1, right? Community is very powerful. The problem is, most of the time, our products, when we work on any products or any sort of business, we create community. Even you don't know, your customers are your community most of the time, right? Some people are very smart, they tap into it. Like, for example, Apple, great example. They know how powerful community they have. They have fans. They don't even have community, they have fans. And like, for example, yesterday they announced one product, this headset finally, and whole community is talking about it. Everybody's so excited. It costs 3,500 euros. That's a lot of money. But people are gonna purchase because they're excited about it. That's how your community works for you. So if we tap into that, community can tell you how to go about some real things. For example, you want to launch a new product. You want to change something. Like recently, if you guys follow a bit crypto industry or Web3, something happened recently in Ledger. Ledger is a hardware wallet. They did nothing wrong. They wanted to introduce a new feature. But what they did wrong, they didn't consult with their community. They didn't talk to their community first. They just announced it. And there was a backfire on that because it was about seed phrase, by the way, if you are not aware of that. So they just said your seed phrase can be retrieved with this feature, and people didn't like it. They said, oh, that means you can steal my money if you can access to that. But I think it was the communication problem. So community is very powerful if you trust them, and also if you give them power. So instead of you working for the community, community can work for themselves. That's where it comes. And the third, equitable governance. And what it means, so I can give a very good example of that. You guys must be knowing about startups, what startups means. So when early employees join startups, you promise them some options, right? You say, join our startups, you will also take some ownership in this company, and you can become millionaire at some point. So that's where this governance comes in. So equitable governance is very important because that makes people feel you are not just a shareholder, you can also help us decide which direction we should go to. And there were a lot of studies, like there was one study happened last year in US, where people accepted that if they would have some sort of ownership in the company, they would use their product more. They would purchase their products more. And because this is our mindset, if we own it, we will use it. Like for example, we want to go to our friends and families' restaurants for two reasons. One, we want to support them. And second thing, we have trust in them. So this is where it comes. Equitable governance is next big thing. A lot of startups are kind of working on there. There are different use cases there, how you can give this ownership in the hands of your employees or the community. So that's also very important to become an internet-native organization. So I'm going to present you some ideas in here, and they are like real examples that you can connect with. So for example, imagine if you wanted to build a new city, like let's say City Tampere, you want to build another a city like this, right? And there are two things in there. This city should focus more on sustainability and community involvement. How would you go about it, right? And I know it sounds very complicated, and people will be like, oh, how is it even possible? And we need a lot of capital to build another city. We need a big lands, and like we have to do it from the scratch. So how it happened? City DAO. City DAO is a US project, and they have 10,000 citizens now, and I think they raised more than 8 million so far. A number could be higher, so forgive me for that. I'm not exactly sure how much they have raised. But what they have done, so one guy, after like this DAO legislation happened in Wyoming in US, right? They bought a land, and they will register their DAO in there, and they started people like, we're going to build another city, and we're going to call it City DAO. And City DAO, every member will be called citizen, right? They can vote, they can decide what we need to invest in. Do we need hospitals more? Do we need schools more? Every person who's member of the city will decide the future of the city, right? That's game changer. It's like right now, I don't think you can do that because you choose leaders and leaders decide that for you, right? But in there, you decide yourself because there will be governance. You are the leaders. You are working for yourself, not for anyone else. So that's the game changer. And another example, imagine a global community where they can collaborate, right, and financially support, let's say, anyone, right? Like charity, nonprofits are definitely a good example of that. But this huge case supported one country, right, in crises, and that is Ukraine DAO. So now you can understand, actually, they are real examples. So this is, I'm not talking anything about crypto here, right? I mean, to be honest with you, crypto is not even needed that much in here, right? They are real use cases, they are real problems, and I'm telling you about real solutions, how people solved it. So Ukraine DAO raised 7 million to support Ukraine government during this Russian-Ukraine war, right? And this girl, Alona, from UK, she started it first and raised 7 million, I think in a few days, in crypto, because crypto was needed at that time for this project, because there was no way to extend money there. So they pooled this money together, 7 million in crypto, using this Ukraine DAO. And again, with governance, which means if you're donating money there, you will also have your voice to be heard there. And that's great. Like in charity, it doesn't work that way. You donate money, and then you trust the management team of the charity. They don't ask you, hey, now I have your 1 million, can I invest in this group? They don't ask you that, right? They can report you, but they don't ask you. There's a difference between a report and ask. And third example, imagine if people could come together to secure and display important historical documents for future generations. And what it means, like, for example, you could be founding documents, some Tampere, or some historical documents. Who owns it right now? Governments, right? Or some private collectors also, sometimes. Depends. So how did they solve it? Constitution DAO. That was very, very great success story. I mean, it didn't work out at last, but they tried. So US Constitution, right, was up for auction. And they asked for bids. And some people came together and said, like, we should own it. People should own it. Why some collector somewhere should own it? And we need capital for it. They raised 49 million, I think in 7 days or something like that, from all over the world, right, in just 7 days, from 17,000 individuals. This money, they pooled together, and I will tell you why it failed also. And they placed a bid, right, to acquire Constitution of US. And why they failed? Because everything that we are talking about here is transparent. Because most of the time, DAOs use blockchain, which means every data is public. How many members you have, you can verify. What money you have, you can verify. So if they have raised 49 million, the person who outbid them got this data from blockchain that they have 49 million. That means I should place a bid of 51 million. So the technology helped them, but also helped the other guy because of the transparency. He could also know that how much money they can place a bid with. And he outbid them with the help of that. So you can understand how powerful this thing is, because if it's so transparent, others can also take advantage of that. But I mean, it does not matter for you as a builder, because your job is to create, right? To help, because people always find some sort of ideas to exploit you. So you should not worry there. So let's look at the numbers right now about this space, DAOs, decentralized autonomous organization. So they are not the only 3 examples. There are so many examples right now in the market, but I cannot cover all of them today. But I can give you an idea of how big this market is becoming. So let's start from money side. So the total treasury volume, which means the money that DAOs are handling right now, is already reaching $22 billion, right? How many members, and what makes you DAO member? If you own their tokens, NFTs, or any sort of tokens that gives you the power to participate in the DAO. And how many people are there right now? So you can see that 6.8 million governance token holders. So that means this number is already reaching that. And believe me, I've been talking about this topic on stages. Last year when I talked about it, this number was 1.3 million. 1.3 million members, sorry. And now it's 6.8 million. That number over there, 22 billion, was around 8 billion last year. So 8 billion to 22 billion, 1.3 million to 6.8 million. You can see this is getting bigger, right? People are taking it seriously because numbers prove. So these are the real numbers. And if you want to verify this, I got these numbers from DeepDAO. DeepDAO is an aggregator platform where they gather this data for analytics purpose. So the big question, how to start, right? And it's a very simple thing. I mean, for me, I really believe, because I'm working on this internet native organization, nonprofit organization, that I think you should adopt INO in everything that you do. If you have some sort of community aspect there, if you think I can give this power in the hands of community, or employees even, like let's say you have 30 employees, do you want to give them some sort of power or ownership to your company? Because if you give them that, there's a higher chance you will retain them. Because talent retention is a big challenge. A lot of people are resigning because jobs are unlimited right now. There are a lot of jobs and people want talent. So that's why you have bigger companies who spend millions of dollars to acquire a talent, right? And as a startup or as a small company, let's say you are like kind of mid-sized company. You have 100 plus employees. Your revenue is in millions, right? But you're not Google, right? I mean, in Google, they have so many things to say. They can suddenly say tomorrow, we are changing the future of AI, right? You might not say that because you might not be working even in AI. So what to say then? So this is where it comes, the power of first making your employees close to you. And how to do that? Not promising them the future, making them part of the future. And that's a huge difference because most of the time we promise, hey, if you stay in my startup, I'm pretty sure we will all become millionaires. And 2 years later, sorry guys, I tried, not working for me. VCs didn't trust me. I'm sorry, it's not on me, it's on VCs. VCs do not invest in first-time founders, Definitely you will find someone who to blame. Or sometimes you also blame yourself, but I mean, they trusted you. They just trusted you. This is where it becomes complicated. So I think give them some sort of power of ownership. I'm not saying just give them majority power, which means if you have 20 employees, 90% is owned by them, and as a founder, you are like 10% owner, definitely don't go that far, but start from somewhere. Because once you have this power, you can also create this collective intelligence. Collective intelligence is so powerful because you are going to get diverse mindset on any biggest problem that your company has to solve. So it's very powerful. So this is where I say start with why. Understand why you want to do it, why you want to gather your community together, or maybe, I don't know, some unknown people that you don't know together. What's the problem you're trying to solve? Are you solving any problem for cancer? Are you, like, right now in market, AI, ChatGPT, is one of the biggest, hottest topic, right? Everybody's talking about it, and a lot of people are using ChatGPT or AI. And governments are trying to figure out how to regulate AI. Some tech leaders, founders also asked to put a pause on AI for 6 months because they don't know how to control it. So what's the idea here? How can we solve it? Who's going to regulate AI? Finally, governments. But people who are working on AI say, no, we cannot trust government on that. And why is that? Because governments are subjective. Some governments are cool, some governments are not. Which means we will get the things that work for governments in AI. AI is a very powerful thing. We don't want to give this power in the hands of government to regulate AI, right? And I think it's a big problem to solve. Who's going to regulate AI? I think, for me personally, I believe people who are going to use AI should regulate AI because they have different belief system, they have different cultures. I think they should put this voice together to regulate AI. And I think this DAO or INO can be a good approach there. And by the way, just for you, OpenAI recently launched a grant. It's 100,000 each, 1 million grant for 10 people. If you can come up with any idea on governance, how to govern OpenAI or AI, so you can get up to 100,000 from them as a grant. So feel free to create ideas in there. Second, find like-minded people. So that's very important. Of course, we all know that. If you're going to build a startup, if you're going to start any project, or let's say if you just want to do a conference, everywhere we need like-minded people. We need people who understand our vision and have same vision, right? Because that's very important. Right now, this room has so many people who are interested in the topic of, let's say, INO or DAO. Maybe they want to launch some sort of DAO. Say hi to them, understand what they're working on, and figure out a way to collaborate. Collaboration is the key, right? You can do it alone. Nobody's stopping you, right? But if you collaborate, you become powerful. And this is what I say. If 10 people are coming together on any idea, that's superpower. And superpower is not owned by only superhumans. It can be also owned by you, but you have to create this collective intelligence. Once you have that, you have so much power. So this is where you need to meet these people. You have to find them. Sometimes you have to find them by saying hi. And third, fundraise. So I just gave you one idea how to fundraise. So there is this grant from OpenAI. That's one idea. I will also share some ideas if I have this slide in this presentation. I'm not sure. But fundraise, there are a lot of ideas. One thing, when you launch this kind of DAO, you can launch NFTs to fundraise because people can purchase your NFTs if they trust in your idea. You can ask the community, friends and family, and sometimes corporates as well. They can also support you. There are a lot of ideas how to fundraise. And fourth, the impact. And impact is very, very important. Why? Because that's what keeps you going. Because it's not easy, right? I mean, I've been building Founderly for 4 years now. And Founderly is a mission-driven project. When I wake up and I feel excited because I am solving a problem for founders. I do understand what they go through because I've been an entrepreneur since very early age. I do understand the need for it. That's what makes me excited. That's what makes me to work for it, even if I don't get paid. Because money is not this is why, like if you talk to some successful founders, you will always hear they don't work for money. Why they don't work for money? Because they work for impact. Impact is more powerful than money. Money follows automatically, no doubt about that. But they work for impact. So impact is very important. You have to find impact angle. What life are you changing? Who is it for? Right? Because if you have this right answer, it's going to help you with fundraising. It's going to help you with your team. It's going to help you with your parents, with your partners, because they will understand, wow, I should support this guy. This is why I want to change the world this way. If you just say, I want to change the world, nobody gets it. I mean, we have already changed the world. What are you talking about? So talk about what you want to bring to the world. And that's the impact. It could be anything. So yeah, I have the slide. So there are some ideas, like generic ideas, how you can go about fundraising for this kind of collaborative projects. So one is like definitely sale t-shirts. It works, I have tried. And NFTs. So NFTs is definitely getting a lot of hype right now. And I'm not talking about these art NFTs, like some graphics. I'm talking about NFTs with some utilities, which means can they enjoy some of your events, upcoming events? Can they get some sort of membership to your products? This is the NFTs I'm talking about here. So if you create that and you explain that on your landing page, it helps to fundraise. Grants, like OpenAI grants, government grants, you can tap into that as well. And then crowdfunding. Crowdfunding is basically like asking your community to put money because you're solving problem for them. So crowdfunding is very common thing. I think we must know about it already. If you don't know, search Google, because there are a lot of platforms for that. Event sales. So you can host events about any topic that you're working in. And then you can sell the tickets of this event. That's another way to get some money. CSR funds, corporate social responsibility. Usually, as far as I know, companies devote 1 to 2% of their revenue for CSR, corporate social responsibility. You can also ask them to donate money from there to your project. Memberships, you can, if you're working on something that allows membership or membership angle, that's another great way to get a lot of recurring revenue. And then, last but not least, sponsorships, right? Talk to corporate partners. They can come on board because, for example, if you're solving a problem for AI, AI companies can support you, right? They can come and put some money to advance your development in there. So yeah, that's, I think I'm almost done here. So I'm gonna wrap up with this very beautiful quote. If everyone is moving forward together, then success takes care of itself, like I said. Right, so collaboration is very powerful if you believe each other and you come together to solve this problem. And this is what Henry Ford said, not me. So thank you, everyone. And this is me, Vattan here. And if you have any question, if you get into any problem around this topic, please reach out to me. I would love to help. Thank you. Bye-bye.